Well, hey there, everybody. It's Chris from the Rate the Record podcast, and I'm not going to pretend like you don't know why you're here. You can see the title of the video, so I'm not going to dance around it. It is the new music review. So that means I've heard 4 brand new tracks that I have opinions on, and I want to share with you, and I want to hear your opinions on them. That's how the show works. That's what we're going to do now, so let's get into it. And as I scooch on over this way, I'm going to remind you to like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. It really helps this channel move along really well. We're trying to build everything up. It's free and easy to do. It only takes a second. So by all means, please, I encourage it, like and subscribe. So first up on the list this week, we have the band Idols. For the 4th time since October, I am covering Idols. They've released 3 new tracks back in October, December, and I think January as well, leading up to the release of their brand new album Tank, which actually came out last week at the point of me recording this. And so just to get back into the promotional cycle for it, they released another new track, the 4th one from the album, and that is Pop, Pop, Pop. So with this track, we definitely see Idols getting back into their more experimental territory, a dancey, synthy, very chill style track, and it instantly reminds me of something along the lines of Radiohead's Idiotech, and I'm sure if you listen to them back to back, you'll probably hear what I'm talking about. I guess that's also helped by the fact that this album and song are all co-produced by Nigel Godrich, who is someone who's been working with Radiohead for the vast majority of their career, so yeah, I guess I can see where that sound is coming from. I adore the harmony of the soft and buzzy synths all over this track. It feels so pretty and haunting, so it's just something that kind of grabs me right away and like on a very emotional level. There's still something melancholic about it though, despite the subdued and fun, bouncy drum beat going on. And speaking of subdued, I mean, let's talk about Joe Talbot's vocals for a minute here. They're very calm, middle ground state style of vocals. I mean, they're not quite as soft as their previous single Grace that had come out, and I had already reviewed that one a couple months ago. But it's still not that charismatic intensity that he's known for in older tracks, but I will say that it does feel like it fits pretty well here. Overall, I honestly think this song is really, really beautiful. I mean, there's a great poetic flow to the lyrics. The mix of warm and cold tones all over the instrumentals create a very sad, but somehow still loving nature and atmosphere to the track. I think this is great work. I really like this, and I think you should give it a try. And I've heard the whole album by now. I've heard it actually twice in the last week, and without even completely thinking about it off the top of my head, I think I'd give it a score of 7 out of 10. But if I was to sit down and actually do like a Rate the Record style review, that could be very different. But off the top of my head, 7 out of 10. It's not bad. I enjoyed it. Probably a lot softer than I was anticipating, but at the same time, there were still some really great tracks on this album. And coming up next on the list, we have the band Health, another band that I've covered at least once or twice very recently on the NMR. They just had a brand new album drop back in December called Rat Wars, and I know I've done, again, at least 1 or 2 tracks off of that. But today's track isn't from that album. It's actually from a Spotify exclusive event that they did very recently. I didn't hear the whole thing yet, but this is one of the tracks that definitely stood out so far. And they did a cover of Deftones' song Be Quiet and Drive Far Away. I think as to be expected, Health took this one in a far more electronic and ambient direction. The driving guitars in the original are now replaced with these dotted sequence synths. There's far more straightforward but super present drums going on, and a whole lot of atmospheric reverb on quite literally everything. The vocals too are also a big part of that atmosphere, but then again that usually fits in pretty well with Health's usual agenda of making music. The vocals always tend to fall kind of into the background, mixed in, blended in with everything rather than standing out on its own, so it doesn't surprise me too much. This vocal style reminds me a lot of their older material as well, so there was that nice little callback feeling. The ending is by far the heaviest part of the entire song, because you get these very crushing and digital sounding guitar chugs, so it brings a lot of intensity that could have been found in the original, and so they just kind of packed it in at the end here, and I really appreciate how they closed out this track. Overall, I will say it's a pretty cool cover. I do like this one, and I don't often get to do covers on the NMR. The last one I did was actually quite recently, and there was Paramore doing Burning Down the House by Talking Heads, and like I said in that one, this is kind of what I look for in covers. A band that can take a song and completely make it their own, and I think for the most part Health did a really good job of doing that. This version feels a lot more expansive and full than the original did. This one's a lot shorter than the original by about 1.5 minutes, almost 2 minutes actually, now that I think about it. But I honestly like both, so you're not going to see me sit here and talk about which one I like more. I would just say check this one out since the more latest one, and go back to the old one if you like it too. Why not? So for the next song on today's NMR, I have the Rat Utopia Experiment, the alt-rock band out of Tacoma, Washington. And they've actually been releasing a bunch of different singles over the past year or two, and they just recently dropped their latest one, which is called Kool Sunday Schizophrenia. One of my immediate thoughts with this song is that I thought this would be exactly what a teenage rock band would want to write, and after a very minimal amount of digging and research, it turns out that's exactly what this band is. The production is actually pretty decent in this one too, I will say that much. It has a tone very reminiscent of the early 2000s MySpace scene when everyone was just able to upload their own music. The only difference with this one is there's far less background noise, and it's not bedroom quality audio or basement quality audio, so it actually sounds pretty decent here. Everything's really well mixed, and so nothing's really fighting for any sort of sunlight, which is always nice to hear in these styles of productions, especially with the younger bands, so hey, you know what? Good on ya. I think one of the bigger issues that I have with this song is the fact that it doesn't really go beyond what you're initially given up front. Much of what really drives the songs are actually the lyrics themselves, which talks about a guy kind of deep in the throes of addiction. And it's not even that the instrumentals are bad either, because I do enjoy them for the most part. If anything, that style and the lyrical themes themselves match very well together. And the more I listened to this song, the more I kept thinking to myself that there's a much more grander moment that's like missing somewhere in this mix, somewhere in this composition, something that could have really built towards, but it never really hit that, so I think that's the part that stuck out to me the most. Overall, it's a very decent alt-rock / pop-punk affair going on here. It's cool to see that there's still life in this scene, especially among the younger generation. I feel gross, old, and weird for saying that. Younger generation? I'm an old man now, aren't I? Oh, jeez. Anyways, decent track. I thought it was good enough. I think you should check it out. It's cool. Do that. I'm sorry, I'm too old for this apparently. And coming back down to earth now. And finally on the list today, we have the band Kaiser Chiefs, the indie pop rock band out of Leeds, England. They've actually gone by quite a few different names since 1996, but settled on Kaiser Chiefs in 2003. Apparently they've been working on a brand new album since 2022, as far as I could read at the very least, and they've released a few singles since then, so now that their 8th album, Kaiser Chiefs' Easy 8th album, is due out at some point this year, I would imagine. They are releasing a brand new single for it now, and this one is called Beautiful Girl. This is probably the most poppy tune I've chosen all week, very much a simple, fun, catchy little indie pop rock type tune. Now, I could very well be wrong, but I'm pretty certain that there's some auto-tune being used in this song, especially in the verses that have like the lower tone to them and everything like that, which, you know, whatever, it's not exactly a crime to use that anymore in these days as it was like 15, 20 years ago, where if you were caught with it, everyone would hate you and make fun of you for it. But it noticeably sounds weird here, and I listened back through it a couple of times and did feel a little strange listening to it and just the way it was used. And for the most part, it sounds like it didn't even really need it. Like, the vocals would have sounded decent without it, I would believe. And that being said, the vocals are also processed with what sounds like a very light layer of overdrive going on top of that, which is also fine too. I use overdrive and distortion on my own vocals, so I don't mind that kind of stuff at all. But combining the two here actually kind of feels like a misstep. Like, I'm not certain why you would need to do both, but okay. Now, with as fun and as clean as the track sounds, that's about where my interest ends for this one, unfortunately. It's kind of a weak song all around. I mean, it plateaus at a very low level. It really doesn't have enough going for it to warrant me wanting to come back to it either. It sounds nice to start. It starts to feel a little boring before too long, unfortunately. And that's saying something considering that the song is only 2.5 minutes, so the fact that I'm saying it's boring and it didn't even have enough time to really make me feel that way, logistically speaking, I mean, I don't know, it didn't feel like the strongest one to me. With that said, overall, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of a dud. I'm not really feeling this one. It's not the worst thing I've ever heard, but at the same time, it's just not doing it for me. Not very exciting. It stops feeling pleasant very early on, and I don't know, maybe you'll feel differently. Maybe you can disagree with me down in the comments, let me know. And that's all I have for the new music review this week, so thank you very much for hanging out with me and listening to these songs and listening to me talk about these songs. And if you indeed did listen to these songs, once again, as I just said for the Kaiser Chiefs, let me know down in the comments below, not just for them, but for all the songs, because I am curious to hear your opinion too. Do you like these songs? Do you agree or disagree with me? By all means, I want to hear your opinions on them down below, because I'll let you know mine. And you don't have to be belligerent about it, even if you disagree disagree with me, it's fine. I'm willing to read it out. We can still be friends here just because we don't like the same tracks. It's all good. And don't forget, you can also let us know over on our social medias what you think too, and all those social media links can be found at ratetherecord.ca, our home base. Yes, that's ratetherecord.ca. As I said, there's the social media links there that you can check out and follow us all over there and do those things. And on top of that, you'll also find the streaming links for our podcast, you know, all the old seasons that we did, and eventually the new season that will be coming, still undetermined, but it will obviously be here eventually. You'll also find ways to request an album for the podcast. By all means, like, we're looking to fill that list. It'll just make our comeback a lot easier. You can find our merch over there as well, because I mean, we have merch. We have a little bit of merch, and you can have it too. Mugs, hats, t-shirts, all those kind of cool things. And if you do like the show, you can support us on Ko-fi, and our Ko-fi link is over on ratetherecord.ca. Ko-fi's a lot like Patreon, just in case you don't know, except the difference is on Ko-fi, the creators get to keep 100% of the money, whereas Patreon takes a little bit for themselves. So guess what? If you decide to donate to the show, it all comes back to us, so that's pretty cool. As per usual at this point, not a lot going on since the podcast is still on break. You can go catch up on that if you haven't. Go watch some of the old NMRs that I've been doing over the last few weeks if you haven't seen those. Live streams are coming soon in the next 2 to 3 weeks for sure. I really got to nail things down, make sure I got everything in order. It's a little more difficult, but at the same time, I think I'm almost ready to do it. Keep an eye and ear out for that, especially on social media. A new ILTS is coming out real soon, probably in the next couple of weeks for sure. I just need time to record it. It's been a little hectic, but I'm going to get that done. And yeah, I think that's all I got going on the channel right now. But again, just follow on social medias and keep an eye here as well if you want to know more about what's happening. So other than that, once again, thank you very much for tuning in and hanging out with me. In the meantime, until I see you next, I should say, go listen to some awesome music. Take care, friends.